Each year, the International Day of Peace is observed around the world on September 21st. The UN General Assembly has declared this as a day devoted to strengthening the ideas of peace through observing 24 hours of non-violence and ceasefire. But achieving true peace entails much more than laying down an arm. It requires the building of societies where all members feel that they can flourish. It involves creating a world in which people are treated equally, regardless of their race. Unfortunately, not everyone is willing to undergo this intrinsic act. Since February, Russia's president has forced the world to witness one of the worst qualities of humankind: greed. War is always a cruel and atrocious act when disputing power. No reason should be enough to unleash such a demonstration of oppression and brutality, spreading misery and destruction to those who are not only involved directly, but those who decide to participate.
The students of fourth year have made different researches upon the Ukrainian war. This war has caused detrimental effects on adults, children, and also animals. The consequences of the Russian invasion in Ukraine will be depicted by each student.
In the celebration of the World Peace Day, it is necessary to remember the value of peace. Civil conflicts, wars, just leave a trace of destruction. We know that consequences of war are several and difficult to address because it is a highly sensitive matter. During the development of my research paper, I found that there are a lot of organizations trying to reconstruct the cities of Ukraine that were destroyed by Russian bombing. Although the war keeps on going, there are an incredible amount of people trying to calculate the funds needed to rebuild their cities, even as a better place. I believe that the idea of reconstruction is a positive message to spread, since it is a message of hope.
Prisons are also part of Ukrainian societies. They are not simple buildings. They function as homes for many convicts sentenced to jail. As a consequence of the war, many prisoners died, escaped, and many others were released to fight for their nation. That's why it's important to remember that all human beings deserve to live in peace.
The events of the current war have changed the course of life of millions of Ukrainian children. As it has happened in different war conflicts, children's rights are violated, putting their lives at risk. Apart from the thousands of innocent lives that were taken due to the mass bombings and shootings, children, whether they stay in the country or at the borders, are in danger of being the main targets of predators who only want to take advantage of the terrible situation families are undergoing. Every day, millions of Ukrainian kids may fall into the hands of criminals, being the victims of sexual assault or human trafficking.
The idea behind my research paper was to investigate one of the main protagonists of the armed conflict between Ukraine and the Russian Federation, which are the soldiers, Ukrainian soldiers in particular. Because, in comparison to their Russian enemies, Ukrainian soldiers are not professional forces but conscripts instead. It is because of this reason that the focus was placed on them. The Ukrainian armed forces are mostly composed of conscripts. That means that before the war started, there were mere civilians with regular jobs, like you and me, who were forcefully drafted into the army and, with little to no training, they were sent to defend their country from the Russian invaders. Thus, these soldiers are at greater risk of developing mental trauma due to the characteristical suddenness of the situation, and it is highly probable that they will end up being afflicted by post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, and sometimes suicide.
Since February, Ukraine has received basic support, humanitarian aid, medical aid, and its inhabitants were welcomed as refugees around the globe. But there are those who had been struggling to survive a war while suffering chronic or terminal diseases. Hospitalized patients have been facing extreme challenges beyond their illnesses. More than 70 separate attacks to hospitals were registered by the World Health Organization. In the middle of a bellic conflict, there is a shortage of medical supplies and doctors, which can impact severely on people with complicated prognoses. Evacuations and transport of patients is not always a good or safe option. There are those who cannot walk or cannot remain without medicine for long periods of time. Terminal patients receiving palliative care need their doses to prevent excruciating pain. Without those medicines, it would be almost impossible to overpass difficult travels and even remain at the epicenter.
Animals are wounded and killed in the most barbaric manners. They are set on fire, shot, among other awful deeds. Also, the shortage of medicines provoked the spreading of lethal viruses, such as anthrax. Moreover, many native animals of Ukraine have been killed, causing a great damage to the wildlife. The number of stray animals increased dramatically, and many of them are starving. However, a huge number of foundations, zoos around the world, are helping with donation and supplies.
Despite these horrible and cruel events, there are people that still have hope in humanity.
In terms of education, France and Portugal resolved to make use of the resources to help the victims from Ukraine. What they did was to open the doors of their schools to all children and their families, giving them support and new opportunities. They built new schools and a variety of places aimed to continue with their education and embrace them in social and psychological ways. This shows how school is much more than a place to study. It is an institution in which children, families, and society can always count on. These are actions that contribute to create values that promote peace.
Also, we can talk about the protagonists such as Argentina. Argentina is a woman that has a hotel called Soria in the capital of Moldova. Argentina was helping the elderly to get to a safe place in order to preserve their lives. She offered shelter in her hotel in Moldova as a refuge. She also highlights that not just Ukrainian people's lives have changed, but also theirs. War is a tragedy that no one can escape, but there is always good people who care about their fellow man, like Argentina, and lots of organizations that take care of the elderly, in this particular case. So as to conclude with this reflection about the war in Ukraine,
we need to highlight the importance of values and the unity of peoples.